And welcome in. It is the BCJ podcast right here on BearcatJournal.com. As always, presented by the Holy Grail at the Banks. Make sure it is baseball season. Get down and get to the Holy Grail Banks. Get you some food. Get you some ice cold beverages. And if you so desire, you can make your way over to the Reds game, but that's not the cool thing to do in Cincinnati right now. So I've suggested, you want the experience, you can get the experience. Just go to the Holy Grail. Don't go to the game. Give the Holy Grail your hard-earned money, and you still get to be downtown and experience everything like you're at a Reds game. All right, let's get this ball rolling. I'm Chad Brendel. He's Dave Simone. A guest 10 years in the making tonight. He's been very elusive. He's camera shy. He's not a guy that it's not a guy that likes. Unlike so Brady is basically the co-host of our Monday podcast. He's on like 2-3 times a month, and Brady loves it. But this guy likes to be a little bit more low profile, a little more low key. But I sent him out a text. Dave and I yesterday were like, we have got to get a guest because it's May and there's not a whole lot going on right now, and I don't know how we're going to carry a show, but. We sent out I said, well, I'll try Rayfelt. He usually says, I don't know. I'm not feeling pretty today. But yesterday he was feeling pretty and he gave us the thumbs up. So here we are with none other than Mr. UC Strength, the head of the Monster Factory, my good friend, Mike Rayfeld. What's going on, brother?
Hey, thanks, Chad. Thanks for having me in. Just says it's about your relentless effort to get me on the show. So, and you're making of us kind of harassing each other before games and all those things. So it's cool to be on, and thanks for having me, man.
This is the one thing I was thinking about today, Mike. With Mick gone now and going through the changes and now landing at Wes Miller going into year 2. Since you arrived on campus, you have seen more practices than anybody.
Yeah.
Like that's your just like you're at that point now where you've outlasted for the most part everybody. So you've seen more Bearcat basketball practice than essentially anybody on the planet over the past 10 years.
Yeah, that might be true. I think myself and Bob would be right there. Number count of practice I've seen on the current staff, right? So
but Bob did football for a while when you got here, so he wasn't at every basketball practice there for a while.
Yeah, he's such a multi-talented guy, right? So he's all over the place, overseeing a lot of stuff. So that might be true. We have to
tally the numbers,
right?
But I think it's close. I think you might be the guy.
Take the trophy on it.
Yeah, you're the lord of the dungeon.
Yeah, because when I first came in, Mick and Savino, I was kind of the young guy on staff, and now I'm older than Wes, so
right.
Being kind of the more tenured person.
What, Dollar's the only one that's got you? Roberts might.
Yeah, Robert's not really close.
I know you guys are right around the same age.
Pretty close.
So let's get into it. Let's get to the Mike Rayfelt backstory. What was it? How did things transpire that got you to UC? You were the Bengals, right?
Right.
When you came to Cincinnati, what got you into strength and conditioning? What started this path, and how did it lead you to Cincinnati?
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's a long story, and I hate talking about myself, so I'll do my best for that.
Well, this is a podcast. You're gonna for a little bit. You're gonna have to indulge me, and then we'll talk. I'll ask you questions about other people.
Okay. So, what got me into strength conditioning? Well, I played football. Played in college, St. Cloud State. Obviously, played in high school. I had a really influential high school football coach. Basically, changed my life. His leadership, and I kind of I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I always thought that was pretty cool, coaching, and I love being in sports. So I want to be part of something greater myself. Originally wanted to be a football coach. Played college football, like I said, went through it, and obviously I wasn't very good, but I trained and worked hard, and I always loved the train aspect of it. So part of my education got into strength conditioning, worked at the high school level all through college, and I was fortunate enough to have my high school strength coach ended up working in the NFL. So when I was done with college, I was able to get an internship with the NFL down in Jacksonville, Florida. And that internship turned into a job. I was there for about 3 years. Ended up going to like a semi-pro league start called the UFL. That was with, there's a bunch of former pros, NFL coaches in that. I did that for 2 years. And then that league kind of went up under. And then by that time, I was really searching for something. And Jeff Friday, which was Chip Morton at the time, the head strength coach for the Bengals, assistant, he's the one that hired me for the UFL. He got me with the Bengals. And right time, right place. Mick was looking for a strength coach. I was looking for, more of a permanent gig. And was in Cincinnati and came in for an interview, and the rest is history.
Okay. Sorry, it just cut out for a second.
No, you're good.
Working with Mick as your first full-time guy, how much of an adjustment was that? Because when you get down to it, Mick is a great guy, but he's demanding, and he knows what he wants and knows what he expects. And how was that adjustment for you? And how long did it take before you and Mick really hit a stride? Because he's still to this day raves about you and talks about how great you were for the program.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love working for Mick, the ultimate non-micromanager, and that's how Wes is too. This allows me to be basically a head coach of the weight room, right? So from that aspect, I mean, it was amazing. For adjustment compared to NFL, a huge adjustment. Mick's obviously super, super passionate. The best guy in the world, but obviously during practice, game day, you let him do his job, stay out of the way, and he does the same for you. But yeah, I mean,
right.
Obviously a million Mick Cronin stories that are not, podcast worthy, but huge adjustment. I love the guy. He's the best.
So you kind of go right into it from, working with the Bengals right into UC. What, you kind of mentioned, it's different. What were some of the biggest adjustments you needed to make from just a coaching standpoint of younger college athletes versus professionals, or just your day-to-day? What were the biggest things that you had to kind of not reteach, but relearn yourself on how you got to do things one way versus how they were being done?
Yeah, I mean, working with college basketball players versus NFL pro athletes. I try to keep the same philosophy, and I tell the players in recruiting visits and our current players now, the golden rule. I'm going to treat you just like you want to be treated, and vice versa, right? So it's that creating that professional relationship, and I kind of carry that over. So even though you're dealing with younger, non-professional student athletes, but just obviously, I think I really actually, if I had college basketball, I really enjoy. We only have 15 guys. We have a couple more walk-ons, 16, 17 guys, depending on the roster. You just get to know the guys at such a more intimate level than obviously in NFL, where guys are not there all day. There's those class schedules, so they're in, they come out, they leave, the facility a little bit earlier. I'm with the guys all day. It might be one-on-one, one-on-two. Guys are constantly coming in and out. I'm at practice, so each guy, having Trey Scott for 5 years, or Jaron Coleman for 4 years, or just having these guys over the long time and spend so much hours with them, you just get to know the guys much better. So it's a really cool experience as a coach.
Basketball. Give us your basketball background. Did you want to work in basketball? Did you know you want to work in basketball? What was your reaction when there's a job open, but it's a basketball job?
Yeah, no, I had zero experience in all professional NFL athletes, and that's something that really intrigued Mick. His previous strength coach was a football guy. He really liked him. Dave Andrews was his name. He works in college football right now, and really liked that, not necessarily mentality, but that approach. End of the day, strength conditioning. Obviously, body types are a little different. but for me in my, 10 years doing college basketball, I had to evolve. I'm a totally different strength coach than I was, in year one with Mick versus last year or currently. Totally changing, totally evolving. And the student athlete's totally different too. So you have to be constantly changing and evolving to stay up with the times.
That was going to be one of my questions about like just in the profession and how you've seen it differentiate from when you started to now. Like, can you kind of go a little bit deeper on that? Like what you've done differently, how you've changed, how you approach it, and kind of how the athletes have changed as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, there's a few things. The perception of strength conditioning with college basketball players or high school basketball players or even pro athletes. I always reference LeBron James and all the articles about him spending like, $1.2 million on his body, right? Nutritionist, strength coach, workout. And so it's been kind of in vogue thing for player development. It wasn't like that when I first started. Basketball players maybe saw as a necessary evil. Now, more guys are seeking out that as a resource from a recruiting standpoint, or the pro guys too, just trying to find the best resource for them to physically develop and have a competitive edge. Before that, it was maybe more like the Allen Iverson attitude. Not for everyone, but it's a totally different playing field. Social media plays a huge role. Everyone's exposed to different trainers, different training methods online. So you really want to stay up to date on your training methods. Just kind of stay in the routine, and stay obviously knowledgeable on what's out there. Technology, big difference from how we do load management at practice. So looking at guys, mileage, their G-force, their heart rate, their intensities during practice to keep them healthy and safe.
Mike, I'm curious, how long was it until you started feeling comfortable in basketball? Or are you that? I mean, I would figure you're finally at that point where, like guards train different than big men and all the intricacies of it. But how long was that learning curve to where you were finally like, all right, I think I got the hang of this. I think I'm in a good spot here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it took me a good 3 years. Not just from me as a strength coach, because again, strength conditioning, human physiology is human physiology, right? We're all basically the same, but just having the buy-in of the team, how, getting better at learning how to motivate kids, find their buttons, especially from a college athlete perspective. Working with pro NFL players are totally different than college players of trying to fix motivational buttons. Having your freshmen now be juniors. So year 3 is really a turning point in a lot of programs. It was a turning point for me with Nick by that year 3 mark.
UC's going back a long time has had, a reputation of toughness and strength and things like that. And we all know that every program talks about how important strength and conditioning is, but like you can tell, especially in college basketball, like where programs where it really does matter. What do you think, when you came in and you carried that on, what do you think differentiates the UC program from maybe how you guys do things and take it to another level, comparatively speaking, to the rest of the country?
Yeah, and before taking the job, I mean, I was told that that's Bearcat tradition, that's toughness. So I knew that going in, and I like that as a strength conditioning coach, right? Like that's one thing, not necessarily mental toughness, but to put on confidence, to put on obviously size and strength into one of our athletes. I can control that. So I thought that was really exciting, just with the culture that was previously already instilled as being a Bearcat, right? But like, yeah, so end of the day, it's the athletes we recruit, right? So I'm only going to be as good as like the guys we get. So we can make changes. There's outliers, there's guys like Jacob Evans that might not be, he wasn't a top 100 recruit in 3 years, changed his body and, was a first round draft pick. Obviously like that, but end of the day, like if we recruit tough kids, we'll train, we'll get them better, we'll move the mark. But if a kid's not tough physically or mentally coming in, we only can move the gauge so much, right? So I think it's just where we're at with how we recruited and kind of the culture, and the kids kind of, they know put on that jersey. That's part of the deal.
So the Monster Factory. 99% of people don't know. When you arrived at Cincinnati, that was 2 separate rooms, white walls, maybe a couple elliptical machines, like a couple of the yoga balls or whatever. Basically, it was a space that was used by employees of the university that would come down and maybe get a little workout in, get a little time on the treadmill in on their lunch break, essentially, right? Like that's what it was when you got here.
It was pretty bizarre. It's a huge space. It's connected main weight room, which I understand why they use that, because we made such a huge financial commitment to that, obviously way before I came. And it's a beautiful space, but at the same time, you had this like outlier space that didn't have much equipment in it. So I kind of went over there and made that into, we call it the court sports or basketball facility, where we can have some more specialized equipment in there for basketball. But yeah, it was bizarre. There's some cheers down there and other people can work out, and I have Justin Jackson over on the bench press, next to them. But slowly change, and it became, exclusively a court sports basketball.
Who controlled the music back then?
Player seniority. So we've had some interesting tunes. Not the nice music. I like alternative rock, hard rock when I lift, but I don't get to listen much to that.
How difficult was that to sell the vision of like, look, I need this space. Like I don't, football, they need a big, huge space. I need something a little more smaller, a little bit more intimate, and this space isn't really being used a lot. Like, what was that sales pitch on? I need that wall to come down. I need this to be one room, and I need it to be mine.
It took time. Like, it just evolved. It wasn't really, I think, of asking for permission or someone saying, hey, this can be the basketball room. It was just slowly invested over time, painting a wall here, getting it done, bringing this piece of equipment. So over, the 10 years, it just slowly became the Monster Factory, right? It was just this beautiful evolution of hard work and making something new every day, and then slowly came together. And now it's kind of a highlight of some of our recruiting visits, and not just serving men's basketball, but helping some of our other student athletes too.
So you are, and this will go back to the part you don't like talking about yourself, but you're kind of like a MacGyver of a strength coach, right? Like, I see 2 or 3 things. I've got an idea in my head. Maybe there's not something out there that's like what I need, or maybe the thing that's like what I need isn't budgetarily, wise or whatever. Where's that innovation come from where you're just like, look, we're going to figure out how to get like the hand roller things are one of your creations, right? Like, take me through some of the stuff you've come up with and how that works.
Tell you what, like, Brady's really good at that too. He does a ton of that stuff, finds stuff, brings it in. I think he was telling me he's been at every play against sports in the tri-state. Yep. So I respect that a lot. Some of the same, background and heart I come from when it comes to trying to leave no stone unturned and helping your guys or some other female student athletes in our program. But so when I worked for the UFL, I had to move out to Casa Grande, Arizona, which is about 30 minutes south of Phoenix. And I showed up and I had about 90 pro, just out of college football players show up. And I was the strength coach. And we had a large facility.
How old were you?
I was, after 3 years in the NFL, I was like 26, 27.
Okay. So about almost the same age as those guys, or many of them. Not far off.
Some are older. We had Dante Culpepper was a Pro Bowl quarterback. He was our quarterback. A bunch of, like, Jeff Garcia was in that league. There's a bunch of dudes. But showed up. There was 0 strength conditioning equipment. And we'll show up for another month. So I didn't have a job. Like, what am I going to do? I'm one guy, got 90 athletes. I don't have an assistant, and we have no equipment. But Casa Grande, Arizona, the one thing they did have is a lot of sand, right? It's like there, it's hot, dry heat, super hot. It's a ton of sand and dirt. And one of the things, a lot of semis came through there, and they blew a lot of tires. So I could go. I found all these dumpsters, and inside of tractor tires, there's inner tubes. And so I made a bunch of like Bulgarian bags, are called, with duct tape, sand, PVC pipes, TRXs, DIY. So I had to, out of necessity, to justify what I'm doing. So it was funny though. This was remember back when P90X was popular?
Uh-huh.
So all the guys thought it was cool. Like, oh man, we're like doing P90X body weight, But really we're just doing it because we didn't have the equipment show up on time. So that kind of was spurred it just out of necessity. And I'm a pretty handy guy. And obviously, we got to find ways to train our guys. And if we don't have the right piece of equipment or don't have in our budget that year, let's find a way.
All right. So the opposite of that, what are some of the new technologies that get you excited that you guys have been able to add and over the last couple?
New technology. I think the cat might have hit the exit button.
No, I can answer that question. That's perfect because it's a ton of stuff. One of the main things we started using within the last year is a device that the NBA uses. It's called Connexon. It's a little chip that goes in the back of their shorts, of the player shorts, and it tracks their distance. David, back.
Yeah, my cat knocked me off.
That's what we guessed. We guessed it was the cat. You got enough of the question in that Mike's able to go, though.
Yeah.
So the Connexon, NBA uses it. It's a load management system. Tracks distance, speed, jumps, gives us more data than we can need, but it helps myself, Coach Wes, program, practice. Are we going hard enough? Are we going too hard? Where are we at in the season? Individual players, how hard are they going? So we can have all those data, and then we can have like educated discussions versus just like, are they? We're like just by our eye. And it's funny because the scientific data, the data we collect, usually supports what we see, right? It's not like it's like
right. It's very rare. You're like, man, this guy's practicing hard, and then you go check the data, and you're like, actually, he fakes it really well.
Right. Usually you can tell, right? Coach's eye, coach's experience, but then it supports it. So then you can have some sit down and educated versus just I'm thinking that, right? It's like, nah, actually this is the data, and this is where we need to get to. But from an injury prevention or decrease the likelihood of injury, I should say. You can never really prevent injury, but decrease the likelihood. Load management, again, it's huge in NBA. It's just another resource you can provide for our student athletes. We use a lot more force plates, which is big, which is basically it's like a really expensive scale. It measures your force into the ground. Back in the day, it's like, well, how much does the guy squat? How much does the guy bench? In basketball, it's really irrelevant. You always go to the story of Kevin Durant. He couldn't bench 185 pounds coming in. So, obviously Kevin Durant. But if we can increase the student athletes' force into the ground, and they have the equal and the opposite reaction out of the ground, they're going to produce more force, can be more explosive, block more shots, maybe a little faster, right? We do a lot of vision training. I think that's a unique thing we do. I got a lot of that from Bob, just trying to increase our student athletes' peripheral vision, or basketball players' peripheral vision. We're on our phones a lot. We're watching TV. So actually that gets detrained. Like right now, our peripheral visions get detrained because I'm focusing on you guys. But we try to open that up through some vision reaction boards we have in the weight room. And that's what we call the Monster Factory. When you tell recruits, it's not just a weight room. It's really a performance center.
We've got a question kind of on that line. Like the blue light glasses. Like tell me about those a little bit.
Yeah. So actually that was, we were playing on the West Coast. We're about to play UCLA. And the year before that, I really got into like sleep. How can we improve our student athletes' sleep? Which is obviously really hard to do. It's like trying to improve their nutrition. And so one of the things we need to educate them on. I'm not tucking them in at bed. I'm not feeding them at night. Only have the meals that we provide for them are good. But what are they doing those 20, 22 hours away from us? But we're going to UCLA. Obviously, it's on the West Coast. Your circadian rhythm is your internal clock. A lot of studies on how that affects performance. Well, one of the biggest things, or one of the best things you can do, one, for sleep and to reset your circadian rhythm. So like if you're flying to London or flying to the West Coast, is morning light, better natural light. So when the sun rises over the horizon, it comes through a certain angle through the atmosphere. And the biggest amount of blue light you can get is in that morning. And that's why they tell you not to have blue light at night. Turn your TV off, cell phones off at night, because it's producing that blue light, telling your body's internal clock that it's daylight.
So I shouldn't sleep with my TV on?
Correct.
Shit.
Well, you could technically sleep with it on as long as you blocked it out with your eyes, but you still get that.
My eyes are closed.
Yeah, but you have the photoreceptors in your inner ear. Crazy. So I went down the rabbit hole to discover how we can increase, better our kids' circadian rhythm, create a competitive advantage, especially like a noon game. A lot of our student athletes are still producing, melatonin. A lot of people take that before bed. Well, our body obviously naturally produces that. When you see that morning light, shuts that melatonin down, and that's what we're doing with the blue light glasses. It's artificial sunrise. So like today, like this year when we played Wichita State, at Wichita State, it's a noon game. At breakfast, all the guys are wearing their blue light glasses. It looks funky. Like the people that are serving are like omelets, and like breakfast people are like, what is going on? Questions. The guys dig it. After they do it and they help them, then they're requesting it. Like, Coach Mike, I need the blue light glasses. Help me. If the guy's already a morning person, it's probably not as advantageous competitive advantage. But I tell the guys, what if that was the 1%? What if that was the one possession that could get us to win? Because they weren't doing it, right? In that particular game, yeah, it was, right? It's a one possession game. It feels like every game we play out there is a one possession game.
Yeah.
Luckily, we've been on the right side of the
record's been pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
You took a 1-year vacation.
Count. That was just COVID. Didn't count. It was 10 months. Season. It was like a fake season. No fans in the stands. So
it didn't happen.
I mean, if we're being honest, like there's maybe 3 places I would rather, not be than there for during COVID. That had to just be miserable.
Yeah.
if we're being honest.
Didn't experience much. I just went to work, came home. Wasn't nothing to do, right? So I didn't really get to experience Connecticut.
Did you learn anything being away for a year, getting a 1 year kind of reset in your mind? Do you think it helped?
I learned a ton. Just how another program, and not. I've been with 4 coaches. So every time you have a head coach, you learn something new, a different way to do things, different leadership style, different coaching style. And as the strength coach, I always want to mirror that. So just learning their style and trying to be their head coach in the weight room and mirror that stuff. So each coach learns something new from. There's a whole different school, different facility, a different way of doing things, a different culture. So I think it was highly beneficial for myself, my career, and the stuff I can bring back to Cincinnati. Obviously, I brought stuff there, so I probably helped them out a lot, but vice versa. It was a great learning experience, and everything happens for a reason. And I'd say I wouldn't. I want to go there, but it is definitely beneficial.
I got yelled at a couple weeks ago. I haven't told you this yet. I saw Danny on the road, and he's like, "It's your fault, wasn't it?" And I was like, "Well." Wes called and said, "Who's the best strength and conditioning coach in the country?" And I said, "Mike Rayfelt." Yeah. And so he called, but I think Wes asked a lot of people that, and a lot of people around the community said, "If you can get Mike back, that's the biggest home run you can hit." What was your mindset when that phone rang and it was the opportunity to potentially come back?
Yeah, I mean that was even I'm from Minnesota, but I met my wife here in Cincinnati. I feel like I bleed black and red. Like Cincinnati's become home. So, and I didn't think there would be an opportunity for it to come back. And me being gone for a short amount of time, it was really hard. Um, I feel like I'm a loyal person, so for me to make a quick change from UConn, it was hard. It wasn't an easy decision, but what made it a no-brainer that it was Cincinnati, right? If it was any other school, I'd still be there. But yeah, that was tough. Super exciting, but at the same time gut wrenching because I loved that UConn. Loved it with Coach Hurley. Grateful for everything he did for me and my family to bring me out there. But it was tough to leave so quickly.
He's the best. I know people have this vision of him that's only game day. It's only what they see. But you got to know Danny really well. I consider Danny a good friend. Anytime we're on the road and we run into each other, we end up standing around and talking, mostly Bengals for 2-3 hours at a time. He's an awesome guy, but the lights go on. That man is a competitor.
Yeah, it's like his alter ego, right? Like he goes to do the phone booth and changes into
a crazy person.
Yeah, super intense, but like his X's and O's, like he was awesome. He was great to work for. But the Bengals thing's hilarious because that's a Bengals connection. Obviously, with Elise, my wife, covering some of the Bengals over the years. I always get Dan's like, "What do you got? What does Elise got? What you got?" And like, Coach, I'm here all day. I hardly talk to my wife, man. Like, trying to help us win. So, but he was awesome.
If he wanted to get the inside scoop, he should have got her a job in the sports media department, and then he would have seen her every day and been able to work her for information because you weren't touched. She was home raising a toddler and adjusting to life, and
big adjustment. Huge.
Somebody wants to know difference between what the difference between what Mick wanted you to do and how to get players ready and what Wes wants, or is it fairly similar? They seem like they're pretty similar in philosophy.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think playing style is a little different, but from his expectations, like very similar, where it's like zero micromanaging, which is not necessarily a good or bad thing, but he and Mick, I feel like, obviously it took, I was with years with Mick. Wes is still new, but just having that trust that, and Wes will say this, and it's very similar to Mick's philosophy is, and I said this before in the podcast, is he treats me like I'm the head coach of the weight room, or I'm the head coach of the monster, and he's the head coach of the team on the court. And so he almost doesn't treat me like an assistant coach. He treats me like another head coach. Now we have discussions about what we're doing, things like that, but it's basically my discretion of how I need to find a way to get the guys ready for his playing style, his practices, and to help us win games and keep the team healthy. So it's a lot of parallels and similarities in how I'm treated as an extension of the staff.
What is your involvement when it comes to recruiting? Obviously, when the guys come in, you have segment of time with them and all of that, but like, are you looking at possible recruits from like a trait standpoint and like a physiological standpoint, and like talking with the coaches, like I think this guy could be this, or this guy seems to be, uber twitchy, or just like, almost like a NFL combine thing. Like we're looking at arm length and height and different testing things. Like, do you get involved from a recruiting standpoint when it comes to that stuff?
Not until they're like officially on campus, or sometimes they'll send me some film, and I can give my insights on look at arm length, like you said, or standing reach, or if look at this guy's body fat percentage, what's the potential, things of that nature. But it's not as in depth of like where I'm making like actually recruiting decisions, right? Like kids,
that guy's out.
No, more like if they bring a guy to you and then you're like, yeah, I think this is what he could become.
Yeah, yeah.
Or I see something that this would give me reservations just based off of what I see.
Yeah, absolutely. I can, give some recommendations, but it's hard. Like the time I see them, usually it's more me selling them the resources we can provide for them as a student athlete here at Cincinnati. So I'm not at the point they're on campus. Obviously, we're pretty serious about them. But if I see something that's good or bad, I definitely give that back to the coaching staff. But yeah, the 45 minutes to an hour, show them the Monster Factory, go through some things. Then I give them a long presentation. I try not to bore them, not give them a dissertation on like exercise. We have a lot to provide for these student athletes from a strength conditioning perspective, and Wes treats me as the best strength coach in the country for men's basketball, and that's what we sell these guys, of how can we physically develop them, not just on the court, not just as men, but the physical development side too, which is, again, now it's in vogue. So we're competing against hopefully soon here everyone in the Big 12, obviously everyone in American, and if we can have the best strength conditioning program and physical development program in the country, maybe that'll give us an edge to get the best players possible.
Any favorites over the years? Anybody? Maybe not favorites, but any guys that maybe the energy was just like, man, I know when I come in every day, like that guy, like I'm sure Jack was like that to an extent. Gary probably to an extent. Like, who were those guys? Ellie, who was always like full of juice. Who were those guys that you're like, man, I got him at 6 a.m. today, and I can't wait to get to work.
Yeah, there's so many. I mean, I wake up every day excited to go to work. This group of guys right now, the core group of guys that are coming back from last year, are some of the hardest working, like day to day, come in even though you are sore, even though you might not want to, group of Bearcats we've had in a while as a group. Super impressed, super fun. Not begging guys to come see me, like they're asking to come see me. So huge, bright, exciting for the future. Now we're bringing in some freshmen and some transfers in the mix, and to have that core group of players with that type of culture is just gonna make it so much better. We're gonna have a great summer. But some of the favorites over the years, obviously, it's there's personality favorites, and then there's like the transformation favorites, right? The guys that like just were awesome.
Right. Justin Jennifer.
Yeah, Justin Jennifer. He was actually in today, training a little bit. He's coming back, working with me. Trey Scott's been in. Trey, like I had him for 5 years, so, and we were super close, still super close. And his story of being a red shirt, I mean, what was his recruiting ranking, like 200, 300 or something?
It was low.
Yeah, and like not playing, basically didn't play his first 3 years. Didn't play his first year red shirt, had mono, was like 190 pounds, ended up being defensive conference player of the year at 222 pounds after 5 years, and now, playing professional basketball. Like, tremendous story, great kid, all the above, and now his sister's around, right? So pretty cool. Gary, obviously amazing. Kyle Washington. I mean, that year, this 2-seed year, just amazing group of guys. I always have Sean Kilpatrick, like the Terminator, amazing. If he wasn't there those first couple of years, because he bought in right away. He was like 227 pounds as a sophomore. He ended up being All-American about 205, 206. Would text me every day about his eating. Like, he kind of started the culture, and then Gary kind of followed that up too. Gary Clark was the guy that came in, first guy at breakfast, did all the treatment, and I think his attitude and kind of the structure we gave him really gave him the benefit to now he's in the league, and being such a mature young guy that he is, really helped him, right? Keeping the league. Probably missing a ton of guys. Fan favorite, Quad Squad. Quad Dream.
You got the Quad Squad mention in.
Yeah, so
the crowd's gonna go wild.
I have a Quad Dream jersey, actually.
Nuh-uh. Just hanging out. Quad gave it to you?
Sure, yeah, I got one.
That's great,
man. I got to hang them up in my office.
Who have been some of the freshmen over the years that have come in and I don't know if surprised is the right word, but like kind of like you've been like, wow, this dude is like he's pretty advanced for a 17, 18-year-old and understanding the importance and just kind of loving the weight room, so to speak, because I don't know if that's a thing that has to grow as you get a little bit older, if the freshmen come in truly being like workout dudes and like guys that you have to pull out of the weight room. I feel like it would probably be the opposite. You kind of got to drag them in a little bit at first. But like, who are some of the guys over the years that kind of just like jumped in right away and impressed you in that way?
No, I feel like it's gotten better over the years, like with the culture and the social media and guys seeing the importance of this weight room. So it's evolved. Just sticking out of my head right now, Logan Johnson as a freshman coming in.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because he had a brother in the NBA or what. Like, he was stellar as a freshman, just super mature. His body changed like crazy. And it was awesome to see him have the year he had this year. That one jumps out. Like Nazir Brooks, even though he didn't have a great freshman year, like he was super awesome as a freshman. Yeah, those are the ones I'm thinking of. But usually it takes that freshman year, and guys, no matter what they do in the offseason, they'll hit that freshman wall kind of in the season. And I feel like that was a lot with, January, February, guys hit that freshman wall. So usually you see the biggest jumps in attitude, buy-in from their freshman year, after freshman year to their sophomore year. Like, that offseason is huge. Unfortunately, we only had one freshman last year. It was CJ. So it's going to be exciting to have some freshmen to train this summer.
Have you talked to Josh Reed much? And how annoying is it that he's 17, 18 years old and smarter than us?
Oh my gosh. And like more ripped and smart and ripped and jacked already.
Right.
Very put together before he comes in. So yeah, I'm super excited to work with him. He's working with a trainer with him right now. I've talked to the trainer a little bit, which we do, and send workouts, but he's taken care of. He's getting ready. These kids will be here soon, shortly here.
Starting couple weeks.
Yeah.
How about Dan, a guy that, 6'6" and 7-foot wingspan and has only really played organized basketball for 3 years? Like, you're licking your chops at that one.
Yeah, so those are guys like like a dry sponge. Like, they're just gonna soak up everything, right? They're gonna look at weights and they're just gonna put on weight, and we'll get them on a nutrition program, get protein, get shakes in them, and they're gonna blossom. And it's amazing. Some of those guys, they're underweight a little bit or understrength, but they are highly skilled, and just see how much, a little bit more girth, a little bit more strength, it just helps their overall game. It's huge. So it's super exciting.
Sage is local, so I'm guessing you've had more interaction with him than the other ones. What are your initial thoughts on the big Hawaiian as he gets ready to come in?
He's getting bigger, so I can't officially work out with him, but has access to the facilities, and you can do that. But yeah, he's getting bigger. He's putting on weight. I like him a lot. He's different. He's quiet, reserved.
So it's like you.
Yeah, kind of like, yeah, we get along really well. I don't know.
What kind of diet nutrition plan do you put like an 18-year-old 7-footer, trying to get him?
Do you just tell Sage to keep eating at the family food truck? Lots of Loco Mocos.
Like, what kind of calorie count are we talking?
The seafood diet, seafood eat it. No, but no, all seriousness, like, they just need to get calories. So the biggest thing for us in the summer and our nutrition program, that's another thing that's changed since 2012. Our ability from the NCAA level, compliance level, what we can give our student athletes nutritionally has changed. When I started, we couldn't give kids peanut butter, but we could give them peanuts.
The NCAA,
yeah, the protein shakes had 29.6% from protein. Like, there's all these like crazy rules, and I think a lot of people credit Shabazz Napier He had an article come out about like he was starving,
being hungry, and they are people clown that. No, it's real.
No, like we could give snacks, but like there was all these things that we couldn't do per the NCAA. So that's all been like basically deregulated. So this summer, for instance, they'll have a breakfast, hot breakfast. It's in our varsity club, which is a newly kind of renovated space. Football uses it a lot. Our basketball players, women's basketball players, plays use it all summer. So they have a breakfast. They'll have a lunch provided. There's multiple fuel stations. We're sponsored by Gatorade currently, so we have all these nutrition shakes, protein powders, all these things that we can give our student athletes now that previously we couldn't even a few years ago. It's all been deregulated to give more resources to them, and they deserve it. So, but that really helps me, obviously, as a strength coach. We can train as hard as we want, but like the thing is they can't train a bad diet, or they can't, if they don't have the resources, you don't have the protein. Like we can train all as hard as we want, but they're not going to get any bigger and stronger, or at least not maximize those workouts, I should say.
Got anything else, Dave?
No, I mean, Mike joined us for
we ran the gauntlet.
An hour.
Yeah.
So, okay, to you, from I don't know, what does going to the Big 12 mean for you as a basketball strength coach?
It's everything you could want. It's the,
that's like that's like going back to the old Big East days, right? I mean,
that's what I was thinking about that today. That my first year we were in the old Big East. Syracuse, Nova, all the schools. I believe we finished, I want to say 9-9 in the conference. I want to say we started
12,
out. We started out really well. And I thought I was like the best strength coach in the world. Well, man, I'm amazing. But it helps me have Sean and Kashmir Wright and Jaquan Parker and Sweet 16 team year before. So I was really lucky to come in that situation with Mick, already winning culture. But we went 9-9 and obviously still made a tournament. So it's a totally different. There's no game that you lose. And this is not me as a strength coach. There's no game you lose that you're like, oh man, we lose this game, it's going to ruin our season, at least in conference.
Right.
So and then every game is just like so much reward and less risk versus our current situation.
Your mind doesn't go where it goes when you're on that flight to middle of nowhere, North Carolina.
Yeah,
I won't name names.
So that so not been friendly.
No, the road has been annoying. Ed wants to know, how does he get abs? Ed's hopeless. He's a long way from abs. He doesn't have a six. He doesn't have a six pack. He's got a keg.
Well, genetics is a wonderful thing for one. So some people just have six packs and they can eat wherever they want. But it's probably at a certain age, it's probably not going to happen. But the answer is, seriously, you'd have to have a very low body fat percentage or decrease your adipose tissue, your fat tissue to a certain level where those abs will show. So there's not going to be any workout you can do. Only thing you can do is decrease your body fat percentage as low as you can, which is extremely hard, and maybe not even the healthiest thing to do.
Is it true fat cells don't go away; they just get smaller?
100% true. They can get big as they can. Like they can get.
Yeah, Chad and I know how big they can get.
Yeah, I'm aware.
We're well aware.
But the worst thing is, like, where everyone's born with a certain amount genetically, right? So if you're born with more, like in certain areas, you're kind of you have a less of a chance to have that six pack. So
yeah, I was great until 30, and then at 30, my metabolism retired.
30 is the number. That's what I tell these young guys. When you hit 30, like back in your 20s, you hit 2 weeks and you drop 10, 15. Now you're 30, and as I tell some of the young coaching staffs that, like, as we're coaching, to gain a little bit of weight with the stress and how hard things are, like it doesn't when you hit 30, it doesn't drop as fast.
No, I was like 150 pounds at like 28, and by 32, that number had expanded exponentially. Are you? Was it like riding a bike once you got back to Cincinnati? Was it like
it was like I never
home again?
Yeah, it was like I never left. Obviously, the room was a little different, but yeah, I was like, I never left. And that's what I said. It felt like I never left because a lot of people at the university were still, when I got back last May, were still working from home. And when I left in COVID, so a lot of people didn't even know I left and came back. So I was like, yeah, I was
A
like,
lot of
really?
people, wait, they didn't. I hadn't seen you in a while.
Yeah, it's like, oh well, let's forget that. But yeah, it was again, it was 10 months, so very quick.
And the wife's happy again. That's what's important, right?
100%.
I haven't seen her in a while. Tell her I miss her. It's been a while.
Busy, man. Two kids. Olivia's turning 4. RJ's months. It's busy here. Just put the kids in bed before I got on. That's what I was trying to figure out this.
Figure out StreamYard. You got any dogs yet?
No,
just kids.
We don't. The kids keep us busy enough. I love dogs. I do. I grew up with dogs, but no time, man. Like I'd feel bad for the dog if I had it because it'd get kids. But yeah.
All right, brother. I think that's good for round 1. We're not going to wait 10 years between now and the next one. I'm not going to.
No, like food talk, no restaurants, no like. I usually hear those things. What's going on?
Well, I mean,
we can. Like
we almost named this podcast the 2 Husky guys, so we can definitely talk food.
What you got around Union, Kentucky, man?
I'm in Independence. There's not a lot in Independence specifically, but if you get over into Florence, actually Union has quite a few spots that are pretty good. They opened have you been to Boomtown Biscuits downtown?
I have not. I've seen it though.
They opened one of those in Union, so that's over here, and there's a couple other decent spots there. But you really got to get down kind of Newport, Covington to really get into the meat of the Northern Kentucky food scene. But La Tortoloca's right around the corner from where I'm at now. So
yeah, I've been.
It's you know.
Oh, yeah, very.
Brady said there was talk of they might be looking to open a spot in Clifton, La Tortoloca.
They need to. Maybe Brady, like we all can come in and be like partial owners or something. So
we should
drive there.
I actually one time I introduced myself to the owners and they were like, "Wait, are you the guy on social media that sends everyone here?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah. I've probably sent you $10,000 worth of business."
Did you get a free sandwich?
No, they were just like, "Thanks, man. Gracias, amigo.
Here's your bill.
Here's your torta."
So
it's $11.
Before you go, we got one last question. What's your favorite cheat meal?
Oh man. Well, yeah, I don't know. See, I don't know if I'm even allowed to say this, but we're in good company here. So,
nobody's watching. It's all right.
I was watching right now. None of the players are probably watching. Let's put it that way. I would be I'll be a donuts. I'll go with some like really good donuts from like a really good bakery, like some Boston cream. Yeah.
Like an old school, like anymore, dude. Donuts are like ridiculous. Like there's strawberry cheesecake and blueberry, like it's like cupcakes, but a donut.
Yeah, no, there's like those voodoo, like all specialty donut places. And I'll just go like it's a normal glaze, like Boston cream. Let's crush that.
Just get a dozen hot out of the oven from Krispy Kreme and just hammer all those.
But I used to work for Krispy Kreme once back in the day, so like I don't eat like I've had so many free Krispy Kremes. And eat it. The smell of it, it's like one of those deals. So Krispy Kreme's out, but like anywhere else, yes.
It's a bit of a chain, but I've tried it recently by my house in Union. Actually, have you had Peace, Love, and Little Donuts?
No.
So they're just like the little tiny donuts, but they're all made up, and they've got like 40 different flavors, and you can just get like 2 of these and 2 of those, but they're just the tiny little
portion control. It's perfect for me.
Yeah. If they're small, you can eat as many as you want.
That's right.
That's how it works. All right, man. You've been awesome with your time. We love it, and we've waited a long time. And it's not like it was you were avoiding. It was like we wanted to do it this time, and things didn't work, and then things got you left for a little bit.
It just makes it better, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, some things are worth the wait. All right, man. Appreciate you, brother. Tell Elise we said I love her, and we will see you soon. And go Bearcats.
Go Bearcats. Take care.
All right,
Thanks,
there
Mike.
you go. Mike Rayfelt, the Monster Factory. You can just hit leave whenever you're ready. You can still stay and listen to me hype you up if you want. The Monster Factory, and the guy that I've had many people and many people around the country tell me the best strength and conditioning coach in men's basketball in the country. And that's not just like everybody says their guy is the best guy, right? But he's frozen.
I love how he's. Oh, there he goes. He's frozen.
No, I did that.
Nice
Like he was okay. He was just frozen with a big smile on his face.
All right, well, you talk real quick. I got to go do something real fast. Do our ad read, and then I'll be right back.
Okay. That was a timestamp brought to you by Urban Artifact. Urban Artifact, the largest sour-only brewery company in the U.S. They pack over 700,000 pounds of real fruit into their lineup of fruit tarts every year. Swing by Urban Artifact's Northside Tap Room, mention Bearcat Journal, and get $2 off a flight of 4 tasters. That was great. Like, look, Mike is as good a dude as you'll ever meet. Genuinely loves his job. Genuinely has grown to love the city of Cincinnati. Like, I look forward to when I get to be at practice, because I know I'll always spend a little bit of time chatting with Mike. I get to games about 2 hours early. And as the team is coming out and getting ready to warm up, Mike is always around with whoever his assistant is. And we give each other a hard time and joke around. And but that's just a great dude. And Cincinnati is very, very lucky. Like, we talk about how lucky Cincinnati is to have Luke and Wes running the football and basketball programs at the same time. The same can be said for Brady and Mike. Like, and that was no lie. Tonk, you are too kind. Thank you, sir. 20 earlier. I'm sorry I didn't get to that. $9.99 now. You are the man. But Mike genuinely gives a crap, and that's what makes him so good at his job. And Dave, I know that's your first interaction with him, in a setting like this, but that's just who he is, man. It's very genuine. It's very authentic. For
sure. I mean, like, we don't like to throw around, like, obviously we don't talk about it. The coaches don't like to talk about it, but you have 2 head coaches at your 2 major sports and 2 head strength and conditioning coaches at those sports that I would be willing to bet, a whole hell of a lot of Power 5 schools wish they had. So, to be able to have that, maintain that, keep that. Thank you, Ed.
Big Buck said,
it would be better if you'd have just put 69 cents, but maybe some other time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you've got now it's not going to matter, hopefully, because they're going into the Big 12. But I mean, to be able to have those guys and have them as long as we've had them, coaches and strength coaches, like, it's definitely a testament to what they think of UC, and then in Brady and Luke's case, their relationship. Because you don't see that happen at any other program that's been in the same type of conference that UC's been in for the last 8 years or so.
Well, think about it like this, Dave. Strength and conditioning coach is a very personal hire, right? Like, that is the right-hand man of the head coach.
Yeah,
99% of the time.
They spend more time with the players than anybody else on the staff.
And if your strength and conditioning coach is shit, then the guy you've got with your players more than anybody at the university isn't running a great show. Mike was retained when Mick left. He left and went to UConn for 10 months, like he said. But then came back because Wes was told, look, You might have your guy, but this is the guy. If you want to go get the guy, go convince Mike to come home. And that's how well respected Mike is. And like I said, Danny was like, he wasn't mad at me, but he literally was like, this was your effing fault, wasn't it? You told Wes how good he was, didn't you? And I'm like, yeah, I did. Yeah. He asked me who's the best strength coach I can hire. I wasn't going to lie. The answer was Mike Rayfeld. He's like, yeah, man, he's the best. He's the absolute best. I was pissed when he came into my office and told me he was leaving. I was like, I get it, man. I'm sorry. I get it. So, yeah. So thanks to Mike, man. That was, I didn't expect it. I thought 30, 40 minutes maybe, but we were just in a rhythm and he wasn't, again, if you don't tell us how long, like a limit, like we only get you for this much time, we're going to get as much out of you as you can.
Yeah, we can come up with stuff. That's for sure.
Yeah. Silly hope Mike, boy, I'd love to hear him talk about each kid on the roster after summer workouts. We can try. I know he doesn't like to get into that. I think he feels there's some confidentiality in that. And I know Mike is, like we talked about, he's it's funny him and Brady together because they are two very different personalities, but they're both incredible at getting the job done. So that's all you can ask for. And put the Urban Artifact logo up there for a little bit. I forgot to put that up and you can't read. So yeah, that was the Mike Rayfeld show, which is one we've wanted to really do for a long time, and I'm glad we got that in. We'll move on to some other topics.
We're not done.
If we want to be done, we can be done. But I think the people would like at least to hear a little bit more from us tonight.
Okay.
No nightcap tonight because Aaron is handling some personal stuff, family friend related stuff back here in Cincinnati. So no nightcap tonight. So we'll give you a little bit more here. If we were going to do a nightcap, this would probably be the topic. I know we've talked about this a little bit, sprinkled throughout the other shows. But Dave, you've been a big proponent of no divisions. You want things to be wide open and adjustable, adaptable from year to year. When Cincinnati goes to the Big 12, the NCAA is headed in that direction. Do you get the sense that that's going to be where the Big 12 goes, or do you have any idea yet? Like, what's your thought process on that?
I mean, I don't really get a sense one way or the other what they're going to do. I mean, obviously, like you said, I personally hope that they do not do divisions, especially if you're going to be in a conference that you think doesn't have that, Oklahoma that's going to win the conference 17 years in a row or whatever. Like, you would just hate to set yourself up to have one team have a really great year and then the other division all be whatever, and then the top team out of that division upsets your top team. Like, just have your two best teams play in the conference championship. I just don't understand why this is like such a hard thing for conferences to figure out. And now that the NCAA, I don't know if it's the NCAA or some committee, whatever, sounds like maybe next week they're going to vote to basically say, like, you can have a conference championship game without having divisions,
right?
Without needing a waiver. Like, the American had a waiver because of having an odd number of teams. But now, if you're a 16-team league, you could do pods. I'm not sure pods work with a number under 16. I know some people have talked about like 4 3-team pods. I haven't gotten into the whole micro of that, but like, I just want to see if you're going to play 9 conference games, just have 3 teams that you play every year and six
rotating
that you rotate with, so that unlike the SEC, where in the current setup, like I'm a Tennessee grad, we play like at LSU or at Texas A&M like once every 8 years. Like you're not even. It's almost like you're not even in the same conference.
Right. That's like that's an out of conference game that just happens to be in your conference schedule.
It's the same way that the NFL works. Like the Bengals play at NFC teams once every 8 years.
Right.
So like you can have two recruiting classes go through. If guys leave that don't ever play at a road game at one of these schools. So I mean, I think it makes perfect sense. I don't know, which way they're going to go. I don't know if the Oklahoma Texas element plays into it at all. Do you set up two systems, so to speak? Do you have divisions until they leave, and then you already have it set up to we're just going to go non-divisions after they leave? I don't know. It's an interesting dynamic because of teams coming in and out over the next several years, where the other conferences don't, that could choose to do this. It sounds like the ACC is definitely at least telling people that they're considering it or having more in-depth conversations about it. They're kind of the only ones that I've heard or seen where it's more than purely speculation on what a fan or a media person thinks they should do. It sounds like someone is telling college football media that from the ACC that this is something they're seriously discussing, which for the ACC too, it makes perfect sense, right? At least the way the conference is situated right now. Like, I don't know why you would want to have divisions where you have one team that's kind of head and shoulders above everybody else currently. And obviously that's not, things are cyclical. It's not going to stay that way forever. But, why would you run the risk of a 12-0 or an 11-1 division winner losing to like an 8-4 team from another division in your playoff game? Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
You're eliminated. You're out at that point in time. Let's say hypothetically they go to 3 permanent games, like 3 permanent rivals, and then 5 rotating.
No,
or 6 rotating. 6 rotating if they stay at 9. Yeah. Who would be your 3?
UCF and West Virginia are the slam dunk.
Have to be. Yeah.
I don't know how like you could do anything other than those 2. I put this out on Twitter the other day and got an insane amount of responses. Like at one point I was thinking I was going to tally it up and see but it was like, it were so many. I was like, I'm not doing that. I think most people, from what I could gather, would say Oklahoma State.
It would be one of 2 for me.
Personally, and I could be wrong, I would say Baylor.
That would be my other one. It would be one of those 2.
I think Baylor in football, Oklahoma State has done a lot, but it's been with Mike Gundy the whole time.
Right.
Baylor has, you say what you will about Art Briles as a human.
There's a lot to say about Art Briles as a human.
They have gone through several coaches, and all of them have been pretty damn successful. And, whether it was him, Matt Rule, Dave Aranda now, and I think that would be my choice if I was just picking the 3 teams that I would like to see UC play every year.
I mean, I think like from a UC standpoint, if I'm looking at the Big 12 and I'm looking at the 8 teams that are going to be remaining in the Big 12, my thought process is Baylor and Oklahoma State are more likely to be in the top 4 of the conference on a regular basis than anybody else, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're recruiting at a different level compared to the
other
rest of the
6.
conference, and have been for quite some time.
I mean, Oklahoma State has the T. Boone Pickens money, Jason, but T. Boone Pickens is dead. Like, that connection is not there anymore, right? Like, you can't just call T. Boone and get whatever money you want the way it used to be because he's not taking calls anymore.
No, but it's still like, is it a good job if it opens? Yeah, it's a good job. It might, but like, it's not like they're going to just hand pick whoever they want.
Right.
So,
and especially in today's day and age where it seems like more and more coaches are learning, I'm content. I'm staying put. I'm good with where I'm at, especially like the higher level coaches.
yeah, I mean, you just very, very rarely see anymore high-level coach leave for other high-level job.
Right.
They're I mean, we've seen it actually. We saw it a lot probably 10, 15 years ago. Then it basically stopped. And then this year you had the oddity of the Lincoln Riley and Brian Kelly thing. But just like when Texas Tech opened, when Baylor opened, like, you're probably going coordinator from major school
Power 5 jobs
with recruiting ties in Texas, and that's a crapshoot. Like, or you're going American Athletic Conference head coach, more than likely.
Right.
So it can be a great job, and they can have all the money and all, but like Oklahoma State their next hire is going to be someone that is not a given that they're going to succeed.
Sure. Here's an interesting one. Rank these jobs, and he added one. UC, Oklahoma State, Baylor, UCF.
Well, hold on before we get to that. So were you saying Baylor as well?
I mean, I'm either one. I'm okay with Oklahoma State or Baylor. Like, West Virginia and Central Florida are absolute must happen. Like, if this scenario plays out, where you get 3 opponents that you play every year, and then you rotate 6. West Virginia and UCF are 2 for sure. The third, I'm okay with Baylor or Oklahoma State.
See, I'm also going Baylor too, from a little, and I don't want to overblow this because I think it gets overblown, but like from a tiny little bit of a recruiting standpoint, where you can recruit into Texas and you can at least say you're likely going to play here in your home state 1 or 2 years, just depending on how the schedule falls. Maybe more, depending on how long you stay in college.
But every other year, you're going to play in Texas for sure.
And then you're going to also be able to say that to the kids in Florida.
Right.
Like, it's a very small thing to be able to say, and it's probably not going to pull a ton of kids, if any kids. But it's at least a way for you to justify going into Texas to recruit a little bit more than you already are. So you can say to the Florida kids, you can say to the Texas kids, you're going to get games back in your home state.
You don't think playing in Stillwater every other year will have the same effect?
I don't think that kind of grabs them, like or Ames, and so if we're going to say a Texas school, I would just say Baylor because they're the best one right now. I mean, again, things can always change. You're one hire away from Tommy Damn Tuberville. So, and every one of these teams, once Texas and Baylor or Texas and Oklahoma leaves, are in that same boat. You are one hire away from the bottom dropping out in a conference that maybe doesn't have a playoff team contender every year, but will be uber competitive.
I've changed my mind.
Okay.
TCU.
Why would you rather play them than Baylor?
Because we're gonna go to Dallas and get a win. We're gonna get a win every year.
Yeah, but if Sonny continues the same stuff he did at SMU, they'll go 7-0 and then lose 5 games in a row. And
that's fine. They'll be 7-5. They'll look okay on the schedule every year. Like, it'll be great. Like, that's the ideal thing. Like, they'll be 8-4. One of those losses is going to be to the Bearcats. They'll finish, fifth in the conference. It'll look like a good win on paper for your playoff resume. And I would rather not have to play a Baylor twice, right?
No, but I like seeing good games and
Sure. I love watching UC play Sonny Dykes teams.
they're like SMU varsity edition.
Right. I enjoyed the UC SMU games the past couple of years. I've had a lot of fun watching those.
Well, yeah.
I'm going TCU. That's
Okay.
my pick. That's my pick. Look, if the goal is get to 12, 11-1, 12-0, make the conference championship game and give yourself a chance.
Then give me Kansas.
I was getting to you, Crypt Keeper. We were in the middle of a conversation. Yes, Bob Bell. Correct.
But so now were you going to ask me about ranking these jobs?
Yeah, rank these jobs: Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, Baylor, Central Florida.
I mean, it's so hard. Like, are we talking about right this second? Where they are right this second?
Like, if the job came open and you had to pick from those 4 jobs, let's do it that way. Like, you're a prominent college football head coach. Those 4 jobs are open, and they are.
But it's so. I don't know. It's just so difficult because, like, I'm a prominent head football coach, but I have ties to somewhere. So, like,
sure.
if I'm a Southeast kind of guy, then I'm probably picking UCF. If I'm a Midwest guy, I'm picking UC. Like, if we're talking about setup for success in the Big 12 going forward as they stand right now, I think
I would go Baylor 1.
I would go Baylor 1, Oklahoma State 2. Just because as much as we want to think that we're going to go in there and I don't know if people think if UC fans think we're going to go in there and dominate, if they think we're going to go in there and be competitive, but like they are a good ways ahead of where UC is from an infrastructure standpoint, from a recruiting standpoint. Like UC's recruited awesome the last 4 years. Oklahoma State and Baylor, without me looking it up, have finished at least 20 spots ahead of UC in the rankings almost every one of those years.
Yeah, they've recruited basically at the level that UC is looking to get to in 2023, right?
Right, and
if they finish out this class, and
they've been stacking classes like that. Now, obviously, not every class is great, and maybe I'm sure some of their classes are in the upper teens and some of them are in the low 30s. But you get what I'm saying. Like, what we think is great for UC is great for UC, but it's still a ways to go from where those teams are. And you just have an infrastructure in place where you've been getting $25 to $30 million a year from. Yeah, and UC's been getting $7. So now give me a couple years to see what happens. What's the new money? What's UC able to do with that? Are they able to keep, are we keeping Luke 3 or 4 more years? Like who's leaving the Big 12? Who coaching wise? Like, but I mean, if we're talking right here, this very second, UC would be 3rd, and I would put UCF 4th just because they're just not as far along with an on-the-field product. They have a lot of benefits, but I'm interested to see, similarly, it's like UC, like, what is going to the Big 12 do? Does it help them a ton?
Does it resonate in Florida?
Right. Well, the same. I mean, does it resonate in Ohio? It's the same type of thing that we're going to find out. Because, like, everyone says they want to go into Ohio, but they don't. Everyone actually does go into Florida.
If you're not recruiting Florida as a staff, you're
right. Like what staff, east of the Rocky Mountains just doesn't recruit Florida?
This is always fascinating to me. I haven't looked it up this year. So I'm going to look it up right now while you talk first, or we
all right,
filibuster for a second. I don't know. Recruiting rankings are a good start. Okay, I've got what I wanted to get. Let's see. I'm scrolling. I'm scrolling. I am looking at, Dave, 4-star players in the state of Florida.
Oh, God. 4-star or higher? There's probably what?
How many? I wanted to guess. How many composite, 24/7 composite 4-star players are there in the state of Florida?
Well, just
the
4 stars or
2023
5
class.
stars too?
Well, 4 and 5 star. Like, how far did I have to scroll down before I found a 3-star?
Okay, so there's usually between 25 and 35 stars in a class. I would guess 5 to 7 of them are from Florida, if not more.
7.
Okay. So then on top of that, 4 stars, I would say there are 31.
Ha!
61.
71.
Oh my God.
71. That's the last 4-star player in the state of Florida. Number 71. Okay. How many 4-star players in Ohio?
9.
Composite 2023 class.
9.
7. 7.
No,
10%.
No 5 stars.
I don't think there's a 5-star this year. No, there's
either.
not. Luke Montgomery is 43. He is the closest. Number 2 is 85 nationally. Florida has 7 guys in the top 30, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I'm scrolling down on Florida, I have to get to 50 and then hit see more to get 71. Number 32 in Ohio is where the list stops. That's the last 3-star player in the state of Ohio in this class, in the composite. Number 32. He's an 80.54, nationally 990. So number 71 is basically top 250. There's 71 top 250 players in the state of Florida. There's a total of 32 3-star or higher players in the state of Ohio. That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's why everybody recruits Florida.
Yeah.
And, I think it'll be interesting, does that Big 12, does just that making that jump, I think it makes a difference. I think it makes a difference for Houston versus, but I also wonder too, when you go into the Big 12, these other schools, Houston, UCF, what is the transfer portal going to do? Because we know it's not changing for UC. They're only going to use it to supplement very specific things.
Right.
Where I feel what we saw SMU do, what we've seen Houston do, what UCF seems to be doing more of. I think, is it basically going to be almost a 50-50 split?
Yeah. And it's going to be interesting. A couple other interesting.
I know SMU the other day got had 3 transfers immediately.
Yeah. That's their thing. They live in the portal.
That's the whole point, Tonk. Tonk keeps you guys watching. It might be like a Scream type situation. You never know who's going to jump out of the darkness.
But then they kill you.
No, I'll see them coming. I'll stab them with my pen.
Okay.
See, I can see them coming. See over there.
Thanks.
There's a spot there. This is a pantry. No one's coming out of there. But
thanks again for the donation, Tonk. I'm gonna start making you guys. If you want to ask questions, you're gonna have to donate.
It's Tonk our 65-year-old white.
He's
booster.
Our benefactor. Yeah, he's our booster.
He's our bag man.
If you're on YouTube watching, Right under the chat, there's a little $sign. You can donate there. He'll donate $500 when you eliminate someone with a pen.
Well, I'll probably need more than that from my lawyers. So,
you can donate there at the bottom of the YouTube chat, or you can join and become a monthly subscriber. And once we get that monthly subscriber count up to 50, we'll start doing some live shows and stuff that are exclusive, that are premium for BCJ subscribers. So if you want to join to help get that subscriber count up, and if we do subscriber chats, like those are going to be significant, right? We're not just slapdicking around for the people that are paid to subscribe, and just me and Dave are going to talk schedule release or something.
do I get any of these donations, or do these strictly go?
We'll see. That $10 goes to you to get a better background.
All right.
I'll put an extra 10 on your
Well,
check.
in a little less than a month, my background will be the beach. So I hope that works.
In a little more than a month, my background will be the beach. So yeah,
If I'm still upright at 8:00 at night.
Yeah, June's going to be a little slow at times. My problem is like, there's probably going to be a lot happening in June.
Yeah, we have the two busiest recruit weekends ever. Like I'm on vacation and then you go on vacation.
Yeah, it's not a great.
It's not like we can just say like, yeah, we're not going to do one this week.
Right. No, I'll be in LA doing one. Like I'll have the microphone with me and the headphones and the laptop, and we'll figure out a way to get one done. My wife might want to strangle me, but maybe that'll be good for her and Kels to have a little night out.
Yeah.
While in LA. People should pay for questions, even just $1. This shit's unreal content. I appreciate you, brother. Greatly appreciated. Dave After Dark sub chats. Now that would be golden.
I mean, the podcast on let's see, what day is it going to be? June 9th. That one that one could definitely fall into that category.
Where'd you say you're going to Destin? Is that where you said? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you guys didn't you go to like Alabama somewhere?
And we went to Hilton Head last year.
Okay.
Outside Charleston 2 years ago. We everybody that goes writes down a place and we draw out of a hat, and that's where we go the next year. We've gotten lucky. There's been some very suspect locales put into this hat that if we're drawn, we'd have all been like, absolutely not.
Oh, that's great.
My dad's usually the one doing that. So
if he draws a bad one, will he just?
But no, he puts in like terrible locations that he thinks would be fun that only he wants to go to.
Like let's go to Fort Wayne. Go to Fort Wayne, Indiana for the weekend.
The one I'm nervous about, because now we have 13 people going, which is twice as many as usually go. I'm nervous there's going to be too many Disneylands in there, or Disney World, whichever one's in Florida. And I'm not ready for that yet.
But that's like you could wear Will out. I think you could wear Will out in Disneyland.
No, he would wear me out.
For sure.
I would just want to go to Epcot and drink, and
But that you've got the grandparents are there. You could send Will with the grandparents, and like I'll be at Epcot doing beers around the world or whatever.
I don't think that would go over very, very well.
I love it. So I think I would go. I would have Cincinnati ahead of Oklahoma State because I wonder, like, without Bedlam, how much of a hit does Oklahoma State take without Bedlam? That's such a like.
I mean, they never win it, so
I know, but it's their chance. They're in the spotlight every year because of that game, right?
They won it this year, and now it's gonna go away in a couple of years. But
yeah, I wonder how much damage that does. Recruiting Oklahoma, like there's not a ton of just natural talent in Oklahoma. I would go Baylor, Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, then UCF. But
Well, I wonder though,
I mean-
in a weird way, does it actually benefit them? Because I imagine Oklahoma is going to somewhat change their recruiting footprint. So does it actually open up more opportunities for Oklahoma State?
do you really think they're going to have to change the footprint that much? Like, they recruit pretty nationally as is.
They do, but I mean, I imagine they're going to be in Louisiana more. They're going to be in Atlanta more. They're going to be in Florida
Yeah.
more. So
I think that's fair.
But I mean, not all of it is part of the reason that this is like. I mean, we'd be excited to be going into any conference, but
Sure.
like, I'm not saying I'm more excited to go into the Big 12. I'm just saying, like, there are so many unknowns.
Right.
But not unknowns of, like, oh, man, this could go totally horrible. Like,
Well, it's
when you
not
go
Texas
from-
and
when
Oklahoma going into the SEC where
when you
it's
go
like,
from the
holy
Big
shit.
East to the American, there's a lot of unknowns. None of them that are appealing, that you want to actually find the answers to.
Right.
Like, I mean,
Also, when you
into like the SEC West, like that's a nightmare, right? That's nightmare fuel.
Texas, like, I don't know what people think is going to happen to them. Like, I know Texas, every fan base is delusional to some extent, but like, you weren't good in the Big 12. Do you think you're all of a sudden going to recruit at a level that is so great that you're going, like, it sounds like a disaster to me.
LSU put 10 guys in the NFL draft and stunk.
Yeah.
That's how much talent is in the SEC West.
I mean, Texas had top 3 recruiting classes 3 of the last 4 years and didn't put anybody in the draft.
0 players drafted.
Now, that's
None.
more of a development thing, in my opinion.
Sure.
And
Sure.
not necessarily the current coach's fault, since he was only there has only been there 1 year.
Sure.
But, like, for all the money and resources and everything they have from a football infrastructure standpoint, they are so far behind. Like, the top
When they
6 or
should be
7,
so far ahead.
they're so far behind the top 6 or 7 teams that I'm like thinking of off the top of my head that, like, great, you're gonna get a bunch more money. Cool.
Congratulations.
You know who else has been getting a bunch more money? Purdue and Indiana and Minnesota and Maryland and Nebraska and, like, they all get a shit ton of money. And what do they do with it? Like, all the money in the
Vanderbilt.
world isn't going to jump what Alabama's doing, what LSU has the potential to do, what Georgia's doing, like what the Texas A&M collective is doing.
Right. Any chance Dez is the starting quarterback when the Falcons play the Bengals? What's that, week 7?
Something like that. I think there's definitely a chance. Like,
Yeah, I mean injuries or like anything could happen.
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't even say injuries. I mean,
I know. I'm just saying, like that, like something like that could happen. He'd be the starter, but like the reality is, like, are they going to give Mariota a full year? Are they going to slow play it?
yeah. Well, I mean, like, without knowing, like, tell me when Atlanta's bye is, and tell me what their record is going into the Bengals game, and I'll give you a good percentage of, is shit already off the rails, and they're 1-5 or something, and they're just like, yeah, let's just play him.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think he'll definitely start. He's not going to be even given like first team reps, But because the NFL it's just totally different than college. Like your backup is not getting reps in practice.
Right.
But I could see them, being like, all right, let's put him out there and see what happens if things aren't going well. I mean, they're not beholden to Mariota. He's on like a 2-year deal. I mean, they could move on from him after one season.
Is Texas really getting that much more money? They've been getting Longhorn Network money as well.
They
That's
will.
Fair.
The next SEC contract is
if the Big Ten gets $1 billion a year, whoo, buddy.
Yeah, I mean we're talking $3 to $5 billion a year in the next SEC contract.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Like the deal that the SEC signed with ESPN, it was signed like at least a year or two ago, and isn't starting until 2024, I think, because the SEC is moving off of the CBS thing, and that whole like Saturday afternoon, Saturday night package is going to ESPN. That was $300 million, and that is right now. They haven't even started the actual contract, and that is a steal.
Yeah,
like ESPN is stealing that content for $300 million.
It's nuts.
Right. And I'm very glad that after the Big Ten is up, then the Big 12 is up.
Yeah, I mean, they're not getting Big Ten money by any stretch.
Oh, no, but somebody is losing out on that
high.
contract that wants live sports.
For sure. And it's going to be interesting who are all players in that, because everybody's kind of jockeying for position right now.
Well, it's funny. The Fox is like brokering the whole deal.
For the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're doing so they're in
Fox
on
owns
it.
the Big Ten network, right?
Yeah. So they're kind of like doing the negotiations for whether it's CBS, NBC, ESPN to like take on whatever other part of, because Fox isn't getting rid of the Big Ten.
Right.
That's their cash cow, like ESPN is for the SEC. But it's just, it's interesting. We always gripe about ESPN, and I saw something today. ESPN and ESPN Plus are still in, or ESPN and ESPN2 are still in more houses than any of the other networks. So we can say we don't like them and we want to try something else, but if you want the coverage and that, what I call kind of that like ingrained mindset of, there's not a game that I'm dying to watch right now where you just automatically go to ESPN.
Right.
Like if you're not seeking out something specifically, you just subconsciously you just go to ESPN.
Turn it to ESPN, see what's on, and then you go from there, right?
Right. Like if that's not interesting, then you make another decision. But like if UC played at noon and it's 7:00, I'm just going to ESPN unless there's a game I absolutely know that I want to watch.
SEC per school payout's going to be like what, $70 million? Like right now it is, or it's like 50 something right now.
It's like 50 now, yeah.
With the new deal, that could get over 100.
Oh, sure. With all their other, like with the total package and who's all involved, like depending on who's all involved in the SEC network portion of it, like, yeah, that's. And they're going to be putting games on ESPN Plus.
Sure, got to get your money there.
So I mean, let's think of like all the SEC fans that don't have SEC Plus or ESPN Plus right now.
Well, they have SEC Network, right? SEC Network Plus.
Well, no, but I'm saying like,
which is a different thing than ESPN Plus, by the way.
Yeah, but I'm saying like,
yeah, I know what you're saying.
If you're just a football fan, you might, and you're like, if you're a Georgia football fan, you might not have ESPN Plus.
Yeah, because every game's on network somewhere right now.
Yeah, and you're not as concerned about like catching the random Georgia basketball game that they plug on ESPN Plus. But now they're starting to put SEC, not SEC versus SEC games, but there are SEC games on ESPN Plus now. So, and I'm sure
that's
down
like
the,
the buy
I'm sure
games
down
are
the
gonna
line,
find
like
their way.
it's like we talked about with UC, like when the American went to ESPN Plus, they're not just going to put a bunch of bad games on there because they want people to pay for it and they want people to go to it. So eventually, the SEC is going to have Alabama versus Mississippi State or something like that on SEC Plus because they want that all the Alabama fans to have to buy it.
Right. But the thing with SEC fans is if you put Alabama versus Louisiana Lafayette on SEC or on ESPN Plus, every Alabama fan's going to get ESPN Plus. And then how many people actually cancel those subscriptions like after they use it for their one game or whatever?
Hardly ever.
Right.
So yeah, I mean,
the reality is, Dave, no matter what the Big 12 deal is, we are entering into a world where it's going to be the Big 10 and the SEC that are going to be
it's
up here.
It's P2.
Yeah. P2 and then A3, like the Power 2 and or the O3, the other 3.
Yeah.
And then the G5.
And that's, I mean, honestly, like, there's no reason, in my opinion, that the Big 12 cannot be number 3 in that order.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I mean, the other conferences have schools that historically, if they get their shit together, would dwarf anything the Big 12 will have to offer. But
right,
as a collective, there is no reason that they can't get themselves into that realm.
Right.
Do I think the Big Ten regrets adding Rutgers? No. Because at the time, it was all about addresses and subscriptions. So it served its purpose at the time and gave them the footing to start the Big Ten network that is now, basically
the best network.
Part of your package, no matter what you no matter what you have. And I don't think they care that Rutgers stinks because they got all those cable boxes when they needed them that gave them the money to grow the Big Ten network into what it is now.
Sorry about the mic, Jason. That's my bad. I had to venture from the desk for a second and I forgot to switch it back. That's what Aaron's good for. Aaron hits me in the private chat and tells me I'm ass and don't switch my microphone back. There's not many big markets in the Big 12, so I don't know what would affect the next TV negotiation.
I don't think markets.
It's kind of a thing of the past now.
Yeah, it's because again, it's not about cable boxes anymore.
Right.
It's about streaming and total views, and because the thing wasn't the Big Ten didn't care if anybody watched the Big Ten network. It was automatically included
in your base package.
In your package. So adding the Rutgers market, they didn't give a shit if one person watched a Rutgers game. It was they were paying for it.
Right.
So it's different now that people have YouTube TV or they're just streaming everything, or it's just a different landscape now where just adding a large city doesn't benefit you if those people aren't actually watching.
Dallas and Houston are huge. And in this new world, BYU is a major deal because that's a kind of nationwide fan base. It's a very large fan base that are going to consume
global
whatever.
Fan base.
Yeah. They're going to consume whatever BYU is doing.
But
so BYU helps.
Dallas and Houston are huge, but they fit into the old model. Like how many people in Dallas are like we joke about it all the time. How many people in Dallas watch SMU games?
A slightly smaller number than watch TCU games.
Right. So, while the city itself is huge, how many people are watching Houston Cougar Kansas Jayhawk football. Like if it was all about cable boxes, then hell yeah. But it unfortunately it isn't anymore. And I think that's why you see it the teams that are being added. Yes, the market does matter. Like I think that it does matter. It's a growth market. Like they're looking at growth market. What can you become? Not what necessarily you are now. But like
right.
That's why like an ECU I don't think ever moves, because as good as they are on the field, it's Greenville, North Carolina. But it's still like now it's just more about, okay, how many eyeballs are you bringing?
Right.
Like who's actually coming to these games? Who is watching these games? Who's paying attention to our product?
That's where the Big East is in trouble, right? Like in this new world, they only bring basketball and they only bring small regional fan bases.
Yeah.
Long term, like that's a dangerous model for the Big East.
Well, I think anything basketball centric is a dangerous model.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they thought like we're going to recreate what happened in the 80s with the Big East.
Except you didn't have none of those teams are still in the Big East.
Yeah, but I just think they thought like we're gonna find the magic again.
Yeah, but like that, I mean, to me, that's just like totally flawed thinking, because that's like, I mean, you had years and years and years of sweat equity built up in those teams. Like,
right.
You can't just find magic out of teams that never played each other, or upstart teams like
or St. John's and Georgetown that have completely fallen off the map.
Right, like your original Big East teams aren't any good,
except Villanova, and now they don't have Jay Wright.
Well, yeah, who knows what happens now?
Yeah,
I mean, yeah,
they're in an interesting spot. I think the Big East.
You got, you have just these kind of like they're very, very randomly located, even though they say Big East, but like, I mean, you're talking about Providence, Rhode Island, St. John's, Seton Hall. Like, who's watching? Not who could be watching it. Now it matters who is watching.
Right. That's it's going to be interesting for them, because guess what? Not a lot of people watched on Fox Sports 1. Not a lot of people have watched on Fox Sports 1.
And I think that's where I think being on ESPN matters so much more in basketball.
Yeah.
When you only have 12 games, like, you can put some on Fox, you can put some on FS1, you can put some on FS2 if you need to. Like, and you'll be okay. But like,
right.
Just, I mean, when UC had that deal with CBS Sports and like half the conference games were on CBS Sports, it's like no one's fucking watching that.
Yeah.
No one outside of the UC, UC's fans is watching that, because none of the other leagues were none of the other teams in the league fan bases were watching their shit teams.
Right.
So, and I hate, I hate to say it, because like we want football and basketball to be as high level as possible, but like just the regular season of college basketball anymore, like, just does not get views.
No, because it happens kind of quietly, right?
Well,
until the NFL's like, hey, we just saw tonight, the NFL for 3 days has dominated social media with a schedule release for teams that already knew exactly who and where they were playing. We just didn't know the win.
All it is allowing me to like figure out my calendar for the rest of the year.
Right. Like, you already knew you play these teams out of conference at home. You play these teams out of conference away. This is your crossover games. These are you're the number one.
In a couple years, the NFL season is going to go into March.
You think the Super Bowl goes into March?
They're going to add an 18th game at some point.
Yeah, that still would be the third weekend in February.
The Super Bowl the Super Bowl is February 12th or 13th this year. I think 12th.
That's the second weekend.
So then the 19th
Would be the third weekend.
and then you got 2 weeks until the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, on
They're the
certain,
gold standard.
I mean, whether it's the very end of February or it's into March, like it's basically the same thing.
For sure. Realignment talk puts butts in seats. No argument there.
No, coaching changes and realignments. The best subscriber driver that we've ever had.
Yep. Couldn't complain or disagree there at all. All right, man. Speaking of CBS Net, how much? What a great job Jim Rome.
I guess I heard that wasn't true. He does not make that much.
He makes that much.
I read an article saying that was not true and it was fabricated.
Okay, unless they reduced his contract, like he signed a long-term contract back when he was Jim Rome.
I just like Fox paying Tom Brady $375 million without having any fucking idea at all if he's good at calling football games.
Yeah, don't care. It's Tom Brady. Brady.
At the same time, like I mean, maybe I'm just not like I don't care who the announcers are.
I don't pay much attention to them anymore.
No, like, are there that many people that are like, oh, Tom Brady's calling this game, I'm definitely watching this one instead of that one that Ian Eagle and Jim Spinarkle are calling?
There are definitely guys that I pay more attention to because I know they're better.
But you're watching it like if they're really good, they're doing a big game. So you're watching it because the game is good, not because of the announcers. Sure.
But I'm talking about in terms of my attention level.
Right.
If I know there's a really good announcer crew, I'll pay a little bit more attention to the announcers. But my brain already is like,
that's a super underrated, not talked about element of going to the Big 12 is that the basketball announcing is going to get a hell of a lot better.
Yeah, for sure. No offense to our guy, Mark Adams.
Oh, no, not him.
Mark does a great job.
There's some others that
aren't on Mark's level. There's a reason Mark gets most of the really good games. So I'll just leave it at that. All right, man. I think we're good. Like an hour with Mike Rayfeld, an hour. This whole, like, now that we've got the chat flowing, it takes a little stress off of us in terms of like, what are we going to talk about? Because we can just kind of hang out and talk with chat.
It's definitely helpful when they're, when we're in kind of a quiet period.
Yeah, it helps out quite a bit. You guys are welcome for the stream. If you want, there's a join button if you're on YouTube right underneath the screen here, the thing you're looking at. There's a donate button when we're live. You can donate. Thanks to everybody before we go, since we only did one, there was like only a couple segments tonight. We weren't very choppy this time, but that is the Urban Artifact timestamp. Urban Artifact is the largest sour-only brewery in the U.S. 700,000 pounds of real fruit into their lineup of fruit tarts every year. Swing by their Northside tap room, mention Bearcat Journal. Get $2 off a flight of 4 tasters. All right, man. Thanks to Mike Rayfelt. That was as good an interview as we've done in a while. Letting you guys get to know Mike and kind of see his thought process and how great he is and why he's so great at his job. So that was outstanding. Big thanks to Mike for coming on. Thanks, as always, to Dave Simone. I'm Chad Brendel. No nightcap tonight. We'll be back with that in a couple days once Aaron gets back to normal. But we will see you next time. This is the BCJ Podcast, brought to you by the Holy Grail, right here on BearcatJournal.com.